I'm doing my first official collab video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm doing a special little collab video with one of the people that I have met here on booktube and also on bookstagram. So it's Nia and Nia and her books. So Nia was so kind enough to kind of like come into my DMs and ask me if I ever wanted to collab on a video of hers. And since I've never done a collab video before, I was really intrigued and I was really excited about like the idea of her picking out my TBR and then I picking out her TBR, and then she can read my favorite novels while I read her favorite novels, and then we kind of review it and how we kind of react to each other's picks. So a little preface is that Nia tends to read a lot of YA fantasy, YA paranormal. She's really into that kind of genre. And if you guys are new to my channel, then I don't actually read those genres that much that often. Often at times I feel like the world building and the writing can get a little bit overwhelming, especially with a lot of the details and especially about like the magic systems and things like that. And then Nia herself, I don't think that she has really dove into historical romance or also contemporary romance as well, or as often as she would like, I believe so. So my video is being posted around the same time as her video, and I'm gonna leave her tag down below, so her username down below, so definitely go give her a follow. She has really aesthetically pleasing videos. Her videos are filmed with high quality, good sound, good lighting, and she talks about YA books, but she also talks about her writing process as well because she is a writer, and it's just very interesting all around. She's such a small creator that I believe that she needs more followers, mostly because she puts so much work into it that it just needs to translate into a bigger audience, because I feel like a lot of people will like her videos. Anyways, enough with the rambling. Let's talk about the books that Nia did pick out for me. So the first book that Nia did pick out for me is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. And now this book is fairly popular here on booktube. I haven't actually heard of it at all. Like, I've never seen the cover before. I don't know when it was published. Like, I don't know anything about this book when she picked it up for me, but I was intrigued by it because she told me that it's a very wintry setting. It's something that you should read when the weather outside is kind of cold and if you want a cozy read. So that's why I picked that one out of her list that she did give me. And then she also gave me another rec, which is Graceling by Kristen Kishore. Definitely a book that I have seen before, but I didn't know that it was popular. Like, when it first came out, I saw it, nobody really talked about it in my circle of bookish friends, and then afterwards, a few books later in the series, it blew up and lots of people are talking about it, and it's fairly popular among the YA fantasy readers. So I'm excited to talk about these books. Let's dive deeper into my thoughts and feelings now. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is, of course, The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. Now, this one is set in Russia. It's a very cozy book, and if you have read it already, then you'll know what I'm saying. But if you want to read a really cozy book right now when the weather is just starting to get warm but still a little bit chilly, I think this book is still fitting the mood very nicely. So it's set in Russia and it's set during the winter time, and it's about this young girl. Now, I'm gonna butcher her name. So her name is kind of complicated to say, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna butcher her name, but Vasilisa? Yeah, I definitely butchered that. But basically our main character is really spiritual in a way where she cherishes a lot of the Russian kind of mythology and Russian gods and spirits and things like that. And there is a spirit known as Frost. Frost definitely does have a negative sentiment towards his ability and his powers, but our main character really does cherish Frost a lot, mostly because Frost does have really great supernatural powers that can ward off evil demons and other evil spirits that can actually cause her family harm. So what happens is that her mother actually ends up passing away, and this kind of leaves her in this heartache and this heartbreak over the passing of her mother, and her father decides to remarry to this woman who is the complete opposite of her mother. Her stepmother is very cold and does not like to play into this idea that they have to, you know, respect the spirits and to actually like give back to the spirits and things like that. So what actually starts happening is that things are going and turning sour, and a lot of negative things are happening to the family and also hurting them as well. So this book is definitely really interesting to read, especially when you're in like the winter, mostly because it's described really well. Like, I felt like when I was reading this book, the writing was very rich and very luxurious, and it was something that I was sinking my teeth into because I felt like I was in Russia and I was braving the Russian winters, that I have no idea how cold it can get, but I'm pretty sure that it can get pretty cold. So that's what I liked. I liked the setting. I liked the relationships between the characters because they were always close and tight knit, and I just yearned and ached for loss for our main characters and things like that. However, I did find myself struggling to get myself into this book, mostly because I felt like the writing style was a little bit too complicated, and it was a little too poetic, and it was a little bit too lush, to the point that I kind of always drifted in and out of the book, and I wasn't paying fully attention to what was actually happening to the story, and there was often times where I had to go back and reread the book. So it got a little bit confusing, and it definitely killed some enjoyment factors for me. While I also thought that the pacing was good throughout the first part of the book, I found the second half to be a little bit too slow and the pacing to not be at the speed that I actually wanted to be. So therefore, this book wasn't my favorite, and unfortunately I had to give it a 3 out of 5 stars, which is still a really good rating. And I feel like a lot of people love this book so much that you'll go in and you'll see all these reviews for 4 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars. So it's definitely not like it's the book's fault. It's definitely like a me problem, and it's definitely me not being used to reading like fantasy mixed with Russian culture, mixed with other factors that played into the role of why I didn't enjoy this book as much. So the next book, or the last book that Nia actually chose for me, is Graceling. I think I said Graceling wrong in the first couple clips, so go ahead, roast me in the comments. I don't care anymore. I lost all will to care about pronouncing titles right and wrong. I actually can't read. But Graceling by Kristen Kishore is definitely a really, really popular fantasy novel. It has over 400,000 ratings on Goodreads, so I'm sure if you're a fantasy reader that you've definitely heard about this book, or if you're on Bookstagram, you probably saw this book already. It has a gorgeous new cover, and it's so beautiful and so pretty. So what does it mean to be a Graceling, or what does it mean to be in the world of Graceling? But Graceling is a book that's basically set in kind of like a medieval time period in this dystopian fantasy world where our main character is being blessed with a special skill. And the idea of her special skill is that she's really good at killing. So she's definitely like a very strong, badass type of character who does not let anybody talk down to her, and who does not let anybody talk back to her, because she can definitely kick someone's butt. Which is a book that kind of reminded me of the premise of Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Even though I've never read any of those books in the series, and even though I've never read any of Sarah's books, I felt like that was the premise. And I'm pretty sure Graceling came before Throne of Glass, but you get the idea. We have a main female character who can fight. And basically, you can tell if someone's a Graceling by the color of their eyes. If they have 2 colors that are mismatched, then they have a special unique power. And it doesn't just have to be killing, it can be surviving and other things like that. And this book tells a story of our main female character overcoming her issues and overcoming her problems, but also finding love along the way. She is also the niece of the king, so she's kind of fairly up there. So we don't have necessarily a story where our main character is kind of started from the bottom and then they have to kind of work their way to take down the monarchy like we normally typically see in our fantasy novels in YA. Now, our main character, Katsa, has definitely an issue that she has to deal with, and the issue is that she's a killer machine. She's kind of like the Terminator, and she can kill everything. She can survive in like the worst like surroundings and environments ever, and she kind of hates herself for it. In a way, she thinks that she's like a weapon, and that she's a thug, and that she's not a human anymore because people are using her, putting her in armies, and putting her so that she can use her abilities for the other person's benefit, which is like kind of sad to live a life by. And that's kind of like the world that we're stuck in with our main character in Graceling. And then halfway through, there is a romance between her and our prince named Prince Poe, which was cute and which is adorable. I really liked how the relationship kind of played out and how it developed from something small to something big. And it was fun to read alongside with all the action-packed scenes of this book. However, I didn't really like this book a lot, mostly because I felt like the world building wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. Like, I didn't think that having mismatched eye colors and having a special strength was that entertaining to me, and then it never really set itself apart from all the very few YA fantasy novels that I did read. In the end, I kind of had to give this book another average 3 out of 5 stars, because while it was very entertaining with all the action-packed scenes, with all the dramatic scenes, with the character reveals, and also like the truth behind her powers, and also how the other characters kind of played into the plot, it wasn't just enough for me to give it a higher rating. Like I said, I've read really few YA fantasy novels, and the few that did really impress me was because it was unique in a way that it was believable, and that I was entertained by it, by the world building, by the writing, and also by characters, and also by the issues that were involved. This book just felt like it was just kind of too much action, and it just wasn't entertaining enough for me. And I felt like personally also, and this is not to do with anything with Nia's favorites or not anything to do with the books, but I also felt like that this book was just not the right book for me at this time when I was reading it. It definitely was me being a mood reader and not wanting to read YA fantasy, and then reading these books afterwards, and then not being in the mood to really like click in and click out. So therefore, if you are a fan of YA fantasy, I'm sure you probably already read these books and you love them, or you want to read them, definitely go check them out, and don't just listen to my review. But that is it for this video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this collab video that I did with Nia. Nia is definitely someone to watch out for on BookTube. I have every bit of confidence in me that she's going to be really big really soon. Leave some comments down below too as well if you guys have any more YA fantasy recs for me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.